And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Cultural Conscious Communications here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. My name is Kitty O'Wado, aka The Conscious Rasta. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 noon Eastern time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all the areas of human interactivity and development. Today's day is Monday. It is the 26th day of May 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we've realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. Let me tell you what we have on the table for today. Today on LIB Radio, in the late 19th century, we as Africans did not have in place the mental position to resist the systems of colonization that were created at the Congo Conference that took place in Berlin. 7 European colonizers divided up the continent among themselves. By controlling the languages that we were, quote, educated in, they created lasting divisions between Africa's strongest national groups that are still impacting the people long after direct colonial rule has ceased. Today, we began the process of reclaiming our destiny and our authority. We began reclaiming our destiny and our authority. So that is the theme for today here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. I welcome you, our listening audience, to join us in the conversation. You will be most welcome today. We'd love to hear from you. Hopefully, we will have a lovely size audience. It is, of course, a national holiday, so we never know just what is going on because of this national holiday. I do want to just take a moment here, and I will be joined any second now by our Rumble family. Bear with me for taking things out of sequence today. Okay, we are live. And let me turn that one down. We hopefully will have a robust audience today since it is a national holiday. And a lot of people, is a banking holiday, I should say. A lot of people won't be going into work today. Hopefully you will be joining us as we talk seriously about engaging the African future. We've got to get serious about this. He says as he nods, yawns, I should say. We've got to take it upon ourselves to claim this future for Africa. So what I'm going to do right now is I pulled up a couple of articles and I pulled up a short piece of video. Now, I was watching this video earlier and it's very entertaining. And he talks about telling the African story because there is a saying that states, until the lion learns to write, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. You've heard me say that before. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go to this video while I am coordinating things behind the scenes, this video is on YouTube. It's entitled Telling the African Story. And this is by Komla Dumor speaking at the TED conference. And I'm going to pause myself. I'll put myself in a little smaller box here. I'm going to pause myself here, and we are going to share this video with you, our listening audience. So here we go.
And so it brings me to my point. In 2012 and beyond, whether you're international media or you're a business professional, how must things change in terms of how you cover the continent? And there's my point number one. There has to be balance, or what I say, please don't patronize me. Okay, where's that?
So when a client comes to us with an ask to launch an influencer marketing campaign, the process is pretty streamlined.
I've given enough props to Nigeria. It's been enough. Where do you think this is? Okay, I'll tell you. This is Luanda. Yeah, that's Luanda. That's Angola. That's Luanda as well. However, that's also Luanda. Less than 5 kilometers away from those posh yachts and all those expensive restaurants. This is Luanda too. So the question I put to you is, what story should you tell? Yes, there's a lot of good news about Africa, but there has to be balance. And all of you recognize when you're being patronized, when you're being told things are perfect when they are not. Everybody wants balance. So in this case, if I'm going to Luanda to talk about economic growth hitting 10% over 10 years and wealth, I have an obligation to tell this story as well. I'll tell you about this lady. I did an interview with her to ask her about, Angola's economic growth and stuff. And she said, well, to give you this interview, you have to do something for me. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to pay her or something. And, we're not allowed to do that. But she came up with a better idea. She spends 2 hours there fetching water. So she gave me a wheelbarrow as punishment. so I ended up, in exchange for the interview, I had to fetch water for a few hours. So point number 2, when in doubt, ask an Africa expert. This is one of my favorite ones. Who really is an Africa expert? How would you feel if you're watching me on telly one morning and, good morning, my name is Komla Dumor, you're watching BBC News. Coming up this morning, we're going to have the latest from Syria, where the rebels are on the offensive, conflict in Egypt, etc., etc. And we are going to speak to an expert on haggis, that Scottish dish that everyone loves and how it affects cholesterol. So we get to the haggis interview, and I said, yes, and so, research has shown that haggis tastes great, but it may affect your blood pressure, etc., etc. Let's turn now to our haggis expert at University of Makerere. It does seem a bit odd, though. But would you have the same reaction if I said we're going to talk about an African story and we had an expert from Washington or from London? So, ask an expert. This guy is one of my favorite people. His name is Kasim Kahira. Nobody knows the Great Lakes like Kasim. Kasim, what is the impact of the M23 taking Goma? Kasim starts firing. Kasim, can the rebels move beyond towards Kinshasa? Kasim starts firing. Because he knows the place. He's from there. He understands. He speaks the languages.
All right, I'm going to pause the video at this particular point, and the bottom line becomes, for a knowledge about Africa, who do we trust? Where do we go for knowledge about educating Africa, overcoming the colonial education system that has been in place since, well, long before the end of colonialism. I suggest that the colonial system began to be constructed when the Berlin Conference divided up the continent, and each was divided into their own linguistic patterns. When we look at mosaic of Africa, we look at a picture of Africa and a map of Africa with the different languages, you can see how systematically it was carved up. Now, fortunately, we Africans are recovering, but my suggestion is that we as Africans in America, who ourselves have been victims of the system of carving us up and giving us foreign languages and educating us, miseducating us into these different languages, we are perhaps the best ones to be able to come in and correct this. So today's conversation is really about how do we, can we, Africans in America, who largely only speak one or two languages at best, how can we contribute to going into Africa and correcting this? Correcting this as we correct ourselves right now. I'm proud to say that I am in process of reminding myself of Tree, the language from the Ashanti Kingdom. And in reminding myself of this language of Tree, I am imagining Africans who speak Tree being forced to be educated in another language. Now, I'm doing this voluntarily, but our people were forced out of their indigenous language into French, English, German, Dutch or Boer, Belgium. You understand the point that I'm making. Educating ourselves post-colonial is not just about the language. It is also very seriously, what do we educate ourselves in? Entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, Pan-African affairs, sustainable development, all areas of human interactivity and development. Do we educate ourselves in renewable energy? Yes, we do. Do we educate ourselves in forming a transnational trade system? Yes, yes, yes. So today we are focusing on educating ourselves to essentially a Pan-African future. We can make it happen. We should make it happen. We will make it happen. We will make it happen. I invite you, the listening audience, to join the conversation today. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are living in black.com. We are all over the world. We're in the UK. We're all across America. We are in Jamaica. We, as African people, I know I have personal contacts who listen to the show in Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, and other places, South Africa. We're going to build something beginning this year. I promise you, it's going to happen because we don't have any time left to waste on building this Pan-African future. We have run out of time. As bad as things were just recently under the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris presidency, It has gotten significantly worse. In just the last 100 days of Donald Trump, we have no choice. We we have a choice, I should say. The choice is to go along with what's going on and just remain trying to hold on and gradually lose more and more with each passing season. Or do we rebel right here, right now? We could have and should have rebelled after, right after colonialism, thrown the French out and gone like Togo. Togo threw the French out. When the French left, they dismantled everything that, quote, they had brought to Togo. They brought to Togo. So we're looking beyond the horizon. I've got a couple of stories up here for today. Let me go to the stories and pull them up. And of course, we are talking about this conversation after very recently, just 3 days ago. Today's what, the 26th, just yesterday, celebrating African Liberation Day. African Liberation Day does include liberating the African mind. That's primary. African Liberation Day is annually observed on May 25th and commemorates the signing of the Charter of the Organization of African Unity in 1963, which aimed to liberate African people from European colonial powers and white supremacy. This day is also known as Africa Day, and was originally called African Freedom Day. And of course, how do you dedicate a day to a whole people, to a whole continent, to 55 countries? How do you dedicate a day to 55 countries? Yet, I'm living in a nation which dedicates a whole month to gay pride. Something is terribly out of balance. And it is not gay people's responsibility to put that into balance. It is your and my responsibility to put it into perspective. Africa Liberation Year, decade. This is actually, I think this is called the African Century. The African Century. So people, let's get it together. Let's get on board. Let's work for Africa for a century. This year, African Liberation Day falls on Sunday, May 25, 2025. Various events are planned around the world to celebrate and reflect on the progress made and the challenges that still exist. So that is a bit about African Liberation Day. I have a couple of websites pulled up, and we're going to go into them. This is the Pan-African Think Tank that I pulled up, and I pulled up specifically on the page of education, the Pan-African Think Tank. Growing minds. Afrocentric education is designed to empower people of African descent with a curriculum in line with our culture and our roots, taught through an African lens. We believe that education is, in its entirety, is a stepping stone in helping Pan-Africa rise above a significant amount of our challenges. Our work includes giving out education scholarships, donating books and supplies to community libraries, donating school supplies to primary schools. And so this is the website. They are asking for donations. I'm going to share the website with you, Pan-African Pan-African TT, Pan-African Think Tank, tt.org. So I'm going to just copy that, Pan-African Think Tank, Pan-African Think Tank, and share with you that link as well. And let me just copy this link a little better. Oh, there it is. Yeah, panafricanthinktank.org. So what I did do that, I copied that. I'm going to paste this around so that you, our listening audience, can have access to the Pan-African Think Tank.org. And let me paste this one more place. We are broadcasting live on YouTube. We are broadcasting on younow.org. We are also on rumble.com. And so we welcome you wherever you are. Wherever you are listening to us, we welcome you and your contributions to it as well. So 1 second here. I'm going to just go ahead and make sure I get all of these links copied up. Where are you? I don't want to do that. Here we go. That's what I want. Okay, let's go forward. That's it. And that's what I intended to do. All right, here we go. I have another website pulled up to share with you today. And I hope you find it compelling, fascinating. I will be honest that kind of today, at the last minute, I had gotten trapped in looking for something that I had up on the desktop earlier, and I just could not find it. I didn't think to search my history. It would have been right in there. Maybe I'll find that same thing right now. And what I'm going to do is go into Pan-African Review. It's the next document I have up. In this document, the Pan-African Review, the conscientious perspective. This is entitled Crafting an Education System for Africa's Liberation. And this is all so very important. Crafting an education system for Africa's liberation. Don't do that. Do this. Copy, paste, and go to the head. And there it is. Copy and control. Crafting an education system for Africa's liberation. Drivers of change in Africa's education will not be money, foreign direct investment, economic assistance, or technical expertise from the global north or elsewhere. This written by Chika Esiobu. Africa's education sector is in urgent need of vital re-engineering that will foster a novel process. Drivers of change in Africa's education will not be money, foreign direct investment, economic assistance, or technical expertise from the global north or elsewhere. Instead, what is needed in Africa's education system is a bold and energetic leadership that deeply grasps the power of an enlightened mind to build transformative systems from scratch. The unexamined assimilation of the Western knowledge system by the rest of the world has slowly but steadily piled up severe consequences over the years. Let me repeat that sentence. That's a very important sentence. The unexamined assimilation of Western knowledge system by the rest of the world has slowly but steadily piled up severe consequences over the years. Years of abandoning community values and knowledge systems in favor of purely Western neoliberal values and education have only led to multi-layered malfunctions at the personal, family, community, and environmental levels. For Africa, the introduction of the right kind of education, even now, can still reverse the effects of the wholesale imposition and adoption of Western values and thoughts. We here explore some areas that Africa's leaders in education would wish to take seriously in the effort to bring transformation across the region through education. A transformed curriculum. At the heart of Africa's educational needs is a curriculum that is relatable to the needs of the region. Crafting new curricula across subjects and fields of study for Africa is a task that only Africans who are deeply knowledgeable about the needs of their community can implement. This task can be undertaken without the organization of major money-guzzling conferences or the hiring of expensive consultants. A series of online meetings by qualified, dedicated volunteers over a period of time can achieve as much of an impact. The subjects of study and the contents of those subjects will need to be revisited. At the social level, for instance, subjects such as ethnic studies should be prioritized, seeing that the continent is beset by ethnic divisions. In medicine and pharmacy, in another instance, the curriculum should, among others, reflect more on tropical diseases, put more emphasis on the African history of medicine, and revisit Africa's indigenous medicinal knowledge. In science and technology, African-centered science, the kind that students can easily identify with outside of the four walls of the classroom, should be emphasized. Textbooks should be evaluated to ensure compliance with community and national values, ethics, and knowledge systems. This article speaks of a transformed pedagogy. Although the delivery of knowledge in Africa's educational system has changed in the years since colonialism, there remains a need to increase the effort invested in ways of learning that are uniquely African. What is needed is an approach that promotes Ubuntu, that has a deep regard for the past, the present, and the future, that respects the earth and what it holds on, under, or above it, and that shows an appreciation of the spiritual. Further, in this kind of education, the teacher must be a person of impeccable character who is well respected in the community. Within an Afrocentric pedagogy, cooperation is the watchword in the classroom and not competition. Students are taught to deeply value and respect who they are and what they stand for, as well as who the other person is and what they stand for. The kind of assessments that are given to students are all aimed at building bridges and not at showing off who is more brilliant or influential. Other ways of promoting an African-centered pedagogy, which leaders in the education sector must and should seek to promote, include experiential learning, that is, learning within the real life, lived experiences of learners, rather than the importance of completely foreign ideas and concepts and imposing such as the preferred reality that learners must aim for. The use of storytelling is an age-old method of learning across much of Africa. This art must be explored and deeply studied. There is need to largely incorporate storytelling as a vital part of teaching and learning across the region. That is so very important. The story of the Jalia. The Jalia is a singer, usually performing on a kora, and he is also a keeper of the knowledge of the village. He is like a library. The Jalia. We can and we should bring the Jalia forward for African children to be educated through. Other ways of promoting African traditional pedagogy include the presentation of education as a holistic and transgenerational non-linear activity. A holistic education reduces the compartmentalization which labels certain disciplines as reserved for, quote, smart students and others for dull students. This labeling has crippled Western education on many fronts and stalled progress in research. Transgenerationally, education should be passed down from one generation to another. In a world where the younger generation feels smarter than the older generation because of a smartphone that they can easily use to search out information, there is a need to delineate between information and wisdom or understanding. The necessity for generations to receive the accumulated wisdom of previous generations through interaction remains. Transformed educational structure and administration. Africa is ripe for a radical transformation in the structure and administration of education. Take the rise in private schools and the trauma of school fee payments on parents. For instance, not to talk of the effect of the student as customer syndrome on teaching and learning across that region. There is a need to strongly encourage other non-governmental driven education platforms, such as community-based education, education pods, where parents come together to start a school for their children, homeschooling, etc. Homeschooling is an African traditional concept that needs to be explored in present-day education across the region. The battle against the commodification of education. This is a very important subject. Since the introduction of the Structural Adjustment Program in Africa in the 1980s, SAPs, we used to call them, African countries have largely made education a cash and carry process. Take the case of Makerere University, for instance. In the 1980s and early 1990s, Makerere University was privatized and commercialized under World Bank pressure. The commercialization compelled most departments, faculties, and institutions to raise their own funds, meaning that fee-paying students were prioritized. Faculty shifted from a curriculum that focused on national transformation and advancement to one that emphasized commercially viable programs and courses that could attract private fee-paying students. Faculties campaigned for secretarial studies, environmental management, conflict resolution, human rights, and other marketable courses. To ease the African university's dire financial situation, World Bank, quote, technical aid experts, unquote, expatriates created Western-oriented courses. Faculty recruitment and retention were based on financial rather than scholarly considerations. These market-based reforms at Makerere University reduced research and development within a decade. After independence, Makerere University was among the few African universities that embarked on the development of an independent, indigenously developed curriculum built around the kind of knowledge needed by the erstwhile colonized people. With the mandated World Bank market-based reforms, however, this uncommon progress was sacrificed to the capitalist preference for a lucrative Western-based education system. The World Bank market-based reforms at Makerere caused a significant drop in the academic quality of the university. The next generation of African leadership in education must seek to revert technique teaching and learning at the elementary, secondary, and tertiary levels to a situation where education is aimed at individual, community, and national transformation. The once universally accepted pathway to the advancement championed by the global North has come under intense criticism. Yet there appears to be no readily packaged nor tried and tested alternative to the widely adopted Western model of societal advancement. Ironically, while enlightened voices across the West are demanding that the pause button be pressed on the ongoing trajectory in Western education, many leaders in the global South are pursuing the Western advancement model, still convinced that it remains the only viable route to progress. The continent of Africa must de-link from this pursuit of the Western idea of progress. The right kind of education is central to this de-linking process. A novel education system built on a central paradigm that honors the human person, family, community, nation, and this earth must become foundational in Africa's advancement discourse. The wheel is not to be reinvented in the pockets of areas where Western culture and science have made some advancement that honors Ubuntu and the earth. We should maximize the positives in that knowledge system. Education leadership in Africa at this point is critical. Education leadership in Africa at this point is critical. Drivers of policies in education across Africa must cease to be blueprints downloaded from more technologically advanced nations. Leadership in education demands foresight that embraces the depths of African Ubuntu philosophy, while simultaneously maximizing relevant scientific and technological achievements. This end of the article. The article written by Chika Esiobu. Dr. Chika Esiobu is a writer currently based in Los Angeles, California. She is the author of Indigenous Knowledge and Education in Africa. Her blog is chikaforafrica.com. chikaforafrica.com. And I'm just going to put that link up for you, our listening audience. And hopefully, you will be attracted to it. I want to say greetings to you. Shabaka is in the house. Shabaka, he says, greetings, Baba, and greetings, family. Thank you, Shabaka, for being in the house today. Thank you for speaking up. Your opinion really is very important here to us on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. I'm putting out this other link to Dr. Chika, so you and I can have access to this great, great, great information that she is sharing with all of us. And I'm grateful to her for what she did right there. We're going to continue. And what I'm going to do, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to, in the background, I'm going to look for history. I'm looking for history. Pull up history on YouTube. And I'm pulling up history. I'm pulling up history. Okay. And I did find what I'm looking for. And this morning. It's going to be about 7. Ooh, there's a lot. I went through a whole bunch today. The top 10 most educated. Why is Africa splitting in two? Should we be worried? Best education systems. 5 most educated presidents. Educating Africa. Short. And I think this is what. No. Education system. This is what I was looking at. Education system. I'm on search, and this is it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to pause it. And this is not what I was looking for. Bear with me. Let me try this one more time. History. Pulling up the group history, and it's going to come up. Education system for Africa. And I do know it was on Twitter. And I'm just not finding it. It was up on Twitter. It would have been the earliest Twitter that I looked at today. This, I believe, was it. And if it doesn't come up, we'll just have to pull it up on another day or pretend that we didn't. I pulled up the home page on Twitter and just did not come up. And so what I'm going to do is just forget about that for right now. I do invite you, our listening audience, to be a part of today's conversation. We've been talking about education for Africa. And I would also go to extend this conversation for education for Africans in the diaspora. And I do have on my desktop, I thought I had the book, and I didn't have it. But I do have this book by Dr. Calestous Juma, which is a very, very important book I can share with it, as he does talk a lot about education in Africa. Now I'm going to go to the index and find an entry from Dr. Calestous Juma about education systems. And bear with me, this is very, very important. Education, EDU, education, ecosystems. I'm looking for education. Importance for open societies, improved support for innovation, and page 307. That's where we want to go in. And this is about I'm just getting into the book. Page 307 to 314. 307, learning cultures. He talks about public education. This is when the context of a chapter entitled Oiling the Wheels of Novelty from Dr. Calestous Juma. He says the following: learning cultures, public education. The technological, and this is unfortunately written in small text. This is about 10-point text here. I write my books in 13-point text. So I don't do this to you. If you get one of my books, you will not be squinting to read it, but I'm going to do the best I can to squint and read the book. The technological controversies tend to focus on the physical and more evident aspects of the application. For example, the objections to this is just really the objections to the wired energy and mobile platforms focused on the turbines and cell towers respectively. And that's just too small to read. I'm sorry. Unless I get reading glasses, and I have some over here, and I'm not even going to dig them out. Bear with me. But I hate it when I get books and the type is just written so small. It is what it is. I'm going to just take the moment here. We're going to begin to wrap it up for today. If there's any comments, any questions anyone wants to have, and I actually do have my book over here on Kujichagulia villages, which I was over here looking for it just a few minutes ago because I wanted to focus on education in the context of Kujichagulia villages. And I've got this right here in my hand. And I wanted to focus on what do we educate our people towards. And now I'm therefore going to go to the last chapter of the book, The New Self-Determining Economy, 18 Functions for a Kujichagulia Village. And this book is all good. This is a really good book. I write on page 62, over the years and during thousands of deep conversations, we have discussed in detail how we can enjoy great wealth development by doing for self. The following 110 ideas have all been explored in varying levels of in-depth engagement. I have divided them into 18 broad categories. In the years that have followed the original publication of this book, some of the following have been exploited, while others remain merely strong visions of what we could and should be doing. I challenge you to imagine the possibilities. So, number one, I go into de-urbanized survival zones with housing. The purpose of these zones is to escape from the constant pressure encouraging unconscious consumerism, to reconnect our fractured psyches from isolation to community. These will be created as a haven for pregnant women at risk. I'm just going to give you 5 of these 18, or 5 of these, there's over a dozen. Rescuing our young males from urban killing zones, as well as a place for young families to homestead. So education to achieve these 5 goals, we're going to educate our young males and females into how to build new housing. In the image you see on LIB radio, and I don't really have that image handy, I can put it in the background. Here, one second. I'll put the Kujichagulia villages behind me in the virtual background. So in the images you see here, we're going to have to learn how to build these homes, these houses. We're going to have to learn CAD drawing, because these are computer-aided designs. We're going to have to use AI rendering. We're going to have to teach how to draw these houses, to draw communities. And then we're going to have to teach how to lay them out on computers with the specific dimensions necessary for us to build them. And then we're going to have to teach our people building techniques. Now, these houses here are drawn with earth bag drawing technology. Let me see if I can get that little bit of green from around my head. I have to turn on or turn off, whichever it is. My green, I have a green screen. There it went. It got most of it off. Can we build these houses? Yes, we can, no doubt. There's 1-story, 2-story, and even 3-story examples of these homes. We can build these. We have built before, but not at this level, not building a whole village. We can do whatever we will to do. So that is one aspect of what we're going to do. We are going to teach carpentry. We're going to teach building, and we're not only going to teach people to build at our village, we're going to send out work crews that can build these houses wherever you, the consumer, would need them. Reconnecting our fractured psyches from isolation to community, where we want to build these housings, these houses together in small communities, building up to larger communities. By putting these communities, these houses, these tiny homes we can start with, but the tiny homes can be centered around one large home. We will be teaching this. And haven for pregnant women at risk at the tiny homes that we have dedicated for pregnant women, having young pregnant women who are at risk. And many times that's a woman by herself, having the child by herself. We'll put them with other women, educate them together. They will get medical care from their common source. And of course, free housing. They're going to give a child for the future development of our village. So for giving a child to the future development of our village, shouldn't they at least be allowed to live there for free or for very low cost or for labor exchanged? I think so. I think so, yes. But it's not going to be me thinking it. It's going to be us doing for self. We can do whatever we wish to do. And I'm excited about it. Education. We're talking about rescuing the young males from urban killing zones. Why are the young men killing themselves in the cities? Because they don't have anything better to do and they want to do something. They want to do something spectacular. They want to do something that's outstanding, that gives them street cred, that gives them credibility. Unfortunately, they have chosen the wrong thing, or the wrong activity has been chosen for these young men. We want them to be autonomous. We want them to be self-determining. We want these young men to want to choose something that's going to give them upstanding in their community, and for which they can take an immense amount of pride in being of service to community. Our African youth, they don't want to kill each other. That's happening in America. Why is it happening in America? It's because America's leadership has decided African children, African youth are to kill each other. And now it's going beyond the men, and it's happening ever more increasingly with the young women as well. We can do better than that. But we have got to take control. We got to take control of our own children largely, not the majority of them, not even the majority, but 2 to too great an extent, they are out of our control. And if you seek to emphasize educating them, quite often, the ones that are the furthest along the self-destructive pattern, quite often they'll curse you and me for trying to help them. Well, brother Shabaka, if it's just you and I, we're going to have to find a way to make this work for Black youth, males, and increasingly the females as well. Rescuing our young males from these urban killing zones and a place for our young families to homestead. As we come to build these houses with our own hands, build these rammed earth roundhouses. As we learn to build them, let's make sure that they are occupied by young families. Let's give a home as a gift upon marriage to a young family. Why not? Why not? Is there any reason we can't do what our ancestors did for many, many centuries before the oncoming of the colonizers? Is to give these homes as gifts to young families. We can do this. There's nothing to stop us. Nothing at all to stop us, except for our inability to progress. We're going to start looking at everything different. This book I just read 5. There's 110 of those ideas to deal with. Let me read 5 more in the next category. The next category is not just de-urbanized survival zones with housing. The next category is elderly retirement villages. Let's invite the elderly people to come and live in our villages. And it readily comes to mind the elderly scholars, many of whom we have lost now. What if in the last 5 years, 10 years of their lives, what if Dr. Sebi, Dr. Africa, Dr. Goss, Dr. Tim Morrow, Dr. Alvina Fulton, what if they had spent the last 5 to 10 years of their lives at a Kujichagulia village? You think it possible we could have extended their lives? You think it's possible they could have created a system that not only extended their lives, but extended the life of everyone living at our Kujichagulia village? What if Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Shashi McIntyre, what if, what's her name? She created many African-centered schools. Think of their name and I'd stop trying to think. But what if our educators all came to live at a village? Barbara Sizemore. What if they all came to live at our village? Do you think it would be difficult for us to set up an education system for our own children that would be a model for the world? Not only would be a model from the world, but from the Kujichagulia village, we would also broadcast that system to the world, so any child around the world who wants to participate in a Pan-African education that truly does transform is going to be a part of our system. Chike Okua, he's an educator and he's brilliant. He's world-renowned. Let's create a situation by which their educational program is a program for Pan-African education for all of our children. We have brilliant people in education, brilliant people in culture. Dr. James Smalls, Kaba Kamene, I know we have the mechanisms. Let's create a village, people. Let's create a village. We can do this. All from a Kujichagulia village. Tapping the wisdom of the elders. We also, the elders, could be invited to form a leadership council. Now, there may be younger managers of the village, but the managers take their dictates from the elders. Who else would be wise enough, esteemed enough to lead us going forward? Low cost housing, retirement, advanced residential health care for our people, Section 8 housing. We could include Section 8 housing into the Kujichagulia villages built in America, to where the housing could be in part paid for by the very government that we are building the villages to escape. There's so much that we can do. Healing retreats. We could be teaching what I know, what I do, what Queen Afua knows, what she does. The accumulated wisdom of Dr. Sadie as it stands today, Dr. Layla Africa. We could be teaching our people to prepare for longevity, to live a long life. I think we're onto it, but I may be wrong. I've made these statements many times before, and I've been completely off base. But we are going to try this. We are going to try all of the above. And the sister who I earlier quoted, Dr. Chika Esiobo, she's currently based in Los Angeles, California. She should be invited to participate in our Kujichagulia villages and bring her knowledge and wisdom about a Pan-African education system. And let's present her to our people, our family. Personally, I think she has qualified herself to be a part of what it is that we are to do. So I hope you have been satisfied with what we shared today. We have come a long way. We have got so much further to go. I thank you all for your attention today. Trust me, we are going to make a major change for our future. Why? Whatever reason why. Because we can. Because we know we need it. Because we know we are wasting our generation if we're not attempting to liberate the minds of all African people around the world. And therefore, we pledge to do that which is in our best abilities about liberating the African world and building that which will last forever. So on that note, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being in our group today. You have been tuned into our African liberation site. And it has been good. I hope you have found it to be quite satisfying. I'll put up a link to the book, Indigenous Knowledge and Education in Africa. That is Chika Esiobo's book. And it looks like a good book. It's a little pricey. It's not too bad. $57 for the hardcover, $39 for the paperback. The book is fairly recent. So I would like to challenge any of you to get this book and to study this book to the best of our abilities. Putting up the link to the book. And bear with me. Why is my computer not responding? We'll figure. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIBD, livinginblack.com. I do encourage you to get my book, Kuji Jagalia Villages. You can go to http:// Kujichagulia, spelled like it sounds, villages.com, and you will be able to get the book. And on that note, thank you all for tuning in today to LIB Radio, LIB TV, to livinginblack.com. We've come a long way together. We've got so much further to go. Tell your friends to tell their friends. We've got our own now. And we aim to transform ourselves as we transform the future. That's what we do on LIB Radio, LIB TV. That's what we do on livinginblack.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.